My name's Daniel, I'm 35, and if you asked me to sum up my role in my family, I'd say this: the dependable one. Not the favorite, not the rebel, not the golden child. Just the guy everyone relied on when something needed to be fixed, funded, or forgiven. For years, I wore that title like it was an invisible uniform. I paid the bills when they were late. I fixed the leaking roof at my parents' house. I covered part of my brother's rent, just until he got back on his feet. I thought it was what families did for each other. The problem was, it never really went both ways. My younger brother, Chris, was the star. Charismatic, reckless, somehow always landing on his feet, no matter how badly he stumbled. My parents adored him, even when he dropped out of college, quit jobs after a few weeks, or borrowed money he never paid back. To them, Chris was just finding himself. Me, I was the safety net. The quiet background character making sure the lights stayed on. I never complained, at least, not out loud. I told myself it didn't matter if they noticed or not. I had a stable job in finance, I lived alone, I could handle responsibility. Maybe I even believed that being the reliable one gave me some kind of dignity. But deep down, I wanted to be seen. Not for the checks I wrote or the hours I worked, but as an actual member of the family. That illusion shattered last year. It began innocently enough. My mom called me with that syrupy voice she always used when she wanted something. "Danny, sweetheart," she said, "we're throwing Chris and his fiancée an engagement dinner. It's going to be such a special night." I smiled, automatically. "Of course, Mom. Just tell me when and where." "Well," she hesitated, lowering her voice, "we were hoping you might help with the reservation. Just to hold it. We'll pay you back." I should have known better. "We'll pay you back" had never once meant I'd see that money again. But like always, I agreed. I called the restaurant, booked a private room for 20, and put down my card for the deposit. It was a fancy rooftop place downtown, the kind of spot my parents could never afford. Still, it was my brother's big night, and maybe, just maybe, this time I'd feel included. The evening arrived. I showed up on time, dressed in my best navy suit, a bottle of champagne in hand and a card I'd customized with Chris and Brooke's initials embossed on the front. I even polished my shoes until they shone. When I walked into the private section, I froze. The place was beautiful, string lights overhead, floral centerpieces, a jazz trio playing softly in the corner. My parents were there. Chris was beaming with his fiancée at his side, her family laughing along with them. Everyone had drinks in hand, clinking glasses, toasting. I stepped forward, expecting at least a smile, a nod of acknowledgement. Instead, Chris smirked at me, barely glancing at the champagne. "Oh hey," he said, his tone casual, dismissive. Then he pointed at a lonely fold-out chair tucked by the trash bin. "Sorry, Dan, this table's for family only. But there's a spot for you right over there." A few people actually laughed. My chest went tight. I thought he was joking at first, but when I looked at my mom, she just gave me a tight-lipped smile, the kind she used when she wanted me to stay quiet. Dad raised his glass awkwardly. Brooke didn't even look at me. I felt 13 again, left out of a family photo because I didn't fit the vibe. But this time, it was worse. Because I was the one who had made this night possible, and still, I was nothing more than a background prop. I walked to the chair by the trash can, set the champagne on the floor beside me, and sat down without a word. I didn't even take my coat off. That was the first crack in the illusion, the moment I realized that maybe my family didn't just overlook me. Maybe they never really saw me at all. The waiter came by and asked quietly if I was with the party. I nodded, though the word "with" felt like a cruel joke. He didn't ask any more questions, just handed me a glass of water. No menu, no offer to take my order, just water. Like he already knew my place. For 2 hours I sat there, coat still on, listening to the clinking of glasses, the bursts of laughter, the cheerful toasts. Chris gave a long speech about how lucky he was to be surrounded by his closest people. I watched my mom tear up when Brooke called her the best mother-in-law a girl could ask for. And not once, did anyone turn their head toward me. I thought I'd reached my breaking point, but then came the bill. I saw the waiter approach their table with the little leather folder in his hand. He paused, scanned the room, then looked down at the card on file. My card. Slowly, he turned and walked toward me. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly. "The total for tonight is $3,218. Should I run the same card for the balance?" Every fork, every glass, every voice at that table froze. 20 heads turned toward me. Chris raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair with that smug grin. "Oh, yeah. Dan's got it." The waiter looked uncertain. I didn't. I smiled, a calm, steady smile I didn't even know I was capable of, and said, just loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Not my table. I was told this one's for family only." You could have heard a pin drop. My brother's grin slipped. My mom's face twitched, confusion flickering in her eyes. Dad sat up straighter, Brooke's father furrowed his brow, and Brooke finally looked at me for the first time all night. The waiter hesitated. "But sir, you made the reservation." "I did," I nodded. "And I paid the deposit. But I didn't eat. I didn't drink. And I wasn't welcome at their table. So I won't be paying the rest." Gasps rippled through the room. Chris's voice cracked with anger. "Don't be ridiculous. It was just a joke, man. You always take things so personally." I almost laughed at that, because that was the line, wasn't it? The script they always used to shut me up. Sensitive. Overreacting. Too serious. But this time, something in me had shifted. "Yeah," I said slowly, rising from my chair. "That's the problem. You think everything's a joke as long as I'm the punchline." The waiter stood frozen, bill still in his hands. Chris looked stunned, like someone had slapped him with ice water. My mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. Dad muttered something I couldn't hear. And Brooke's father, the one man at that table who had no reason to take my side, turned to Chris and said, incredulous, "You invited your brother here and sat him next to the trash can?" Chris scoffed. "It was nothing, he's being dramatic." But the cracks were showing. The mask was slipping. And for once, I wasn't the one shrinking under the weight of their stares. My mom tried to smooth things over, her voice sharp but dressed in that fake sweetness she always used when guests were around. "Let's not blow this out of proportion," she said quickly, forcing a tight smile. "Daniel has always been sensitive. He's just tired." He didn't mean that. Sensitive. That word again. The same one she'd used my whole life whenever I dared to push back. Sensitive when Chris wrecked my car and they laughed it off. Sensitive when they skipped my promotion dinner because Chris was having a rough week. Sensitive every time they treated my efforts like invisible labor. But this time, the word didn't sting, it lit a fuse. I looked straight at her, calm but firm. "No, Mom. I meant every word." The silence was unbearable. Even the jazz trio in the corner had stopped playing, like the music itself didn't want to interrupt. Chris shoved his chair back, his smugness cracking into irritation. "Oh, come on, Dan. You're acting like a martyr. You think paying a deposit gives you the right to make a scene? Grow up. I turned my eyes on him, steady and cold. You want to talk about growing up? Maybe start by paying your own bills. Or finishing something you start. A couple of Brooke's relatives exchanged uneasy glances. Brooke herself looked like she'd swallowed glass. Her father, still glaring at Chris, spoke again, slow, deliberate, each word heavy. You let your brother fund this dinner. Then you humiliated him. In front of everyone. That's not a joke, son. That's disgraceful. Chris's face reddened. He looked to my mom, desperate for backup. She gave her usual performance, sighing heavily like she was the victim. Daniel, honey, you should be grateful. We've always done our best for you. Family takes care of each other. I almost laughed. The hypocrisy was so thick it made me dizzy. Grateful. I repeated, my voice low but sharp. You've taken from me for years. My time, my money, my patience. And every time, I stayed quiet. But tonight? No. Tonight, I won't be your wallet with a smile. My dad finally spoke, his voice gruff, almost warning. Daniel, sit down. You're embarrassing yourself. No, Dad, I said, standing taller. For once, you're embarrassed because people are watching. Not because of me, but because the way you treat me isn't private anymore. The weight of my words hung in the air. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I reached for my coat, slipping it on slowly, deliberately. Enjoy your dinner, I said, nodding toward the table where I'd never been welcome. But don't expect me to pay for the privilege of being treated like trash. And with that, I walked toward the door, leaving the stunned silence behind me. The elevator ride down from that rooftop felt like it lasted an hour. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked different, my jaw clenched tighter, my eyes sharper. I wasn't the quiet background character anymore. I was someone who had finally stepped out of the shadows. When the doors opened to the lobby, I exhaled, ready to walk away from all of it. But just as I pushed through the glass doors onto the street, I heard my name. Daniel. It was my mother's voice, heels clicking frantically behind me. I kept walking, but she caught up, grabbing my sleeve. Her face was pinched with fury, not remorse. What on earth was that? She hissed. You embarrassed us in front of Brooke's family. Do you have any idea how selfish that was? I stared at her, disbelief flooding me. Selfish? You sat me by a trash can at my own brother's engagement dinner and expected me to pay for the privilege. That's selfish, Mom. Her eyes narrowed. You're twisting things. You know Chris struggles. We just wanted tonight to be about him. Why can't you be grateful for the family you have instead of looking for reasons to feel slighted? Grateful. There it was again. That poisonous word. I pulled my arm free, my voice firm but calm. Grateful for what? For being used. For being invisible. You don't get to call theft and humiliation love. For the first time, she faltered. Her mouth opened, but no words came. She just stood there, breathing hard, eyes darting back toward the restaurant doors like she was terrified someone would see us. I shook my head and stepped off the curb, waving down a cab. My phone buzzed in my pocket as I climbed in. A text from Chris. Real mature, Dan. You ruined the whole night. Grow up. Another buzz. This time from my dad. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Don't do anything you'll regret. And then one from my mom, longer, dripping with guilt. Family takes care of each other. We raised you, we gave you everything. The least you can do is support your brother when he needs it. Don't be petty. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. For once, I didn't reply. The cab pulled away, city lights blurring past the window, and for the first time in years, I let the silence settle. Not the kind of silence that comes from being ignored, but the kind that comes from taking back control. Still, a thought lingered in the back of my mind, unsettling and sharp. If they could dismiss me so easily tonight, after everything I'd given, what else had they hidden from me? I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every glance from that rooftop dinner. The smug grin on Chris's face. The way Mom tried to gaslight me into gratitude. The silence from Dad. By sunrise, my phone was buzzing again. Missed calls, texts piling up. Chris had written, "You owe me an apology. Brooke's parents think you're unstable now. Thanks for ruining it." Then another from Mom. "You're overreacting, Daniel. We'll smooth this over if you just send the payment for last night." They weren't even pretending anymore. It wasn't about family. It was about money. My money. I dragged myself into the office, running on caffeine and spite. But as I sat at my desk, something gnawed at me. That thought from the cab ride, what else had they hidden? By lunchtime, I had my answer. My phone lit up with a notification from the bank. A transfer. Out of my savings account. My heart hammered as I logged in, scrolling through the transactions. There it was, $5,000 withdrawn the week before. Not by me. By my parents. I froze. 4 years, I'd let them borrow from me. Small amounts here and there, always with promises to pay it back. But I had never given them access to this account. And yet, somehow, they had it. I called the bank, my voice tight with anger. The representative checked the account details and told me, matter-of-factly, that my parents had been listed as secondary signers. "They've been on here since the account was opened, sir," she said. That couldn't be right. I'd opened this account after college, on my own. I had no memory of ever adding them. My stomach sank as realization hit. They must have done it years ago, back when I still lived at home and needed their signatures for certain documents. My hands shook as I ended the call. They hadn't just taken advantage of me last night. They had been quietly draining me for years. When I got home, I pulled out old bank statements. Page after page confirmed it, small transfers, withdrawals that never lined up with my spending. Thousands, over the years. And all of it, gone without a word. At that moment, everything clicked into place. Their constant guilt trips. Their insistence that family takes care of each other. The way they brushed off my contributions like they were nothing. They didn't see me as a son. They saw me as an account. I sat there in my apartment, the statements spread across the table, my chest tight with fury and betrayal. And for the first time, I thought, maybe it's time they find out what happens when the ATM stops working. The next evening, I drove to my parents' house with the bank statements in a folder under my arm. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a fury I'd been holding back for years. The moment my mom opened the door, her face tightened. She already knew why I was there. "Daniel," she sighed, like I was an inconvenience. "Can't this wait until everyone cools off?" I brushed past her into the living room. Dad was in his recliner, pretending to watch TV, and Chris was sprawled on the couch like he owned the place. Brooke was there too, flipping through her phone. "Cool off," I said, my voice low but sharp. "You've been stealing from me." Chris snorted. "Oh, here we go again." I slammed the folder down on the coffee table. Pages spilled out, withdrawals, transfers, dates. These are my bank statements. Thousands of dollars gone. And don't bother denying it, the bank confirmed you're listed as secondary signers. The room went still. Dad shifted uncomfortably, but Mom was the first to speak. We didn't steal. We borrowed. You're doing well, Daniel. You can afford it. Your brother needed help. I laughed bitterly. Borrowed? Show me 1 cent you ever paid back. Just one. Silence. Chris rolled his eyes. You act like it's the end of the world. It's just money. You're not starving. Be grateful you can help. Not everyone's as lucky as you. That word again. Grateful. Like I owed them for the privilege of being bled dry. I leaned closer, my voice steady now, every word sharp enough to cut. Grateful? For what? For being used. For sitting next to a trash can while you all laughed at my expense? You didn't want a son. You wanted an ATM with my name on it. Dad finally spoke, his tone dismissive. Daniel, you're blowing this out of proportion. Family sacrifices for each other. Funny, I shot back, because I don't see anyone sacrificing for me. Not once. Everything's been about Chris. His failures. His bills. His dinners. His future. I turned to Brooke, who had finally looked up, her face pale. You really want to marry into this circus? Just know, when they run out of me, you're next. Brooke's mouth opened, then closed. She looked at Chris, but he avoided her eyes. I gathered the papers, shoved them back into the folder, and stood. It ends now. I've closed the account. You won't get another dime out of me. And if you try, I'll make sure the bank investigates every transaction you ever touched. My mom's face twisted, her voice rising shrill. How dare you threaten us after everything we've done for you? I paused at the door, turning back just once. You didn't do things for me. You did them to me. And I'm done letting you. Then I walked out, leaving their stunned silence behind. The silence didn't last long. 2 days later, my phone lit up with a text from my dad. Mortgage is due. Send the money by Friday. No hello, no apology, not even a shred of humility. Just an order. Like I was still their obedient son who'd do anything to keep the house standing. For the first time in my life, I laughed at a message from him. Then I typed back, short and sharp. Ask Chris. Since you all made it clear he's the only one who matters. It took less than 5 minutes for my mom to call. I let it ring out. Then came the voicemail, dripping with guilt. Daniel, please don't do this. We're your parents. Family takes care of each other. You wouldn't even have a good job if it weren't for the sacrifices we made. We just need a little help until Chris gets back on track. Back on track. He was 33 and had never once been on track. That night, Chris himself texted me. Dude, why are you being so dramatic? It's not a big deal. Just cover the mortgage like you always do. Not a big deal. He really thought stealing thousands from me and humiliating me in front of everyone was nothing more than a rough patch. I replied with one line. Not my problem anymore. The silence from his end was louder than any insult. But then my mom tried again, this time upping the guilt. Another text buzzed through. Daniel, we raised you. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us? By abandoning us when we need you most? That word, abandoning. Like I was the one betraying them, instead of the other way around. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. I typed slowly, carefully, making sure every word landed like a hammer. You abandoned me years ago. Every time you dismissed me, used me, and called it love. You made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you sat me by a trash can. Now live with the family you chose. Chris. For once, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. People like my parents and Chris didn't just let go. They would push and push and push until they found another way to bleed me dry. And when they did, I'd be ready. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. A week later, I was sitting at my desk when I got an email from my landlord. Subject line, urgent, verification needed. My stomach sank as I opened it. Attached was a request for employment verification and income details, apparently submitted on my behalf. But I hadn't applied for anything. I called my landlord immediately. Hey, what's this about? He sounded confused. Didn't you send in a co-signer request? It says your parents applied for a loan using your information. The bank wanted confirmation of your income. My blood went cold. They hadn't just stolen from me. They were trying to leverage my name, my credit, my stability, as if I were some kind of endless resource. I drove straight to their house, adrenaline buzzing in my veins. My mom answered the door, startled. Dad sat at the table, paperwork spread out like a war map. Chris was there too, slouched back with his usual smirk. What the hell is this? I snapped, slamming the email printout onto the table. Dad didn't even flinch. Daniel, calm down. It's just a small loan. We used your name because you've got the steady income. You should be proud you can help your family like this. Proud. That word twisted in my stomach like poison. I leaned forward, my hands gripping the table so hard my knuckles went white. You committed fraud in my name. Do you have any idea what could happen if the bank flagged this? Chris rolled his eyes. You're so dramatic. It's just paperwork. Stop acting like you're the victim here. Victim. My voice shook, not with fear, but with fury. You drained my savings. You humiliated me. And now you're trying to saddle me with debt I never agreed to. That's not family. That's theft. Mom's voice rose, shrill and desperate. We gave you life, Daniel. We sacrificed everything for you. The least you can do is give back. I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. Give back. You've taken everything. And I've let you. But not anymore. I pulled my phone from my pocket, hovering over the screen. You've got two choices. Cancel this loan right now, or I call the bank and report fraud. And when I do, don't think I'll stop there. I'll take every transaction you made in my name straight to the authorities. The room froze. Chris's smirk faltered for the first time. Dad's jaw clenched, a muscle twitching in his temple. Mom opened her mouth, but no words came. For the first time, I had the upper hand. And they knew it. The silence after my threat was heavy, like the whole house was holding its breath. Dad finally spoke, his voice low, almost a growl. You wouldn't dare. Reporting your own parents. That's disgusting. I didn't blink. What's disgusting is using your child's name to commit fraud. Don't twist this. You're not victims, you're thieves. Chris shot forward, jabbing a finger at me. God, you think you're so high and mighty just because you've got a job and a steady paycheck. Newsflash, Dan, you're nothing without us. You should be grateful we let you be part of this family at all. There it was. The truth, spoken plain. I wasn't family to them. I was a wallet, a resource, a background character in the story of Chris. I let out a breath, slow and steady. Grateful? You sat me by a trash can and expected me to pay for it. You drained my savings and told me it was love. And now you're trying to chain me to debt so Chris can keep failing without consequences. No. I won't be grateful for abuse. Mom's voice cracked, desperation bleeding through her anger. Daniel, if you do this, we'll lose everything. The house, the car, your father's credit is ruined. Chris can't qualify for anything. That's not my problem, I cut in. You made your choices. Now you live with them. I dialed the bank right there, my thumb hovering over the call button. Chris lunged forward, trying to snatch the phone, but I stepped back. His hand missed, and for the first time, I saw panic in his eyes. Wait. Brooke's voice cut through the chaos. She'd been silent all evening, but now she stood, trembling. I didn't sign up for this. Chris, you lied to me. You said your brother was helping willingly. She looked at me, her eyes wide. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Chris turned on her, his voice sharp. Don't start, Brooke. He's overreacting. But Brooke didn't let him finish. No, he's not. This is insane. If this is what marriage with you looks like, living off stolen money and gaslighting your own brother, I'm done. The room imploded. Chris shouted her name, Mom tried to calm her, Dad barked at me to put the phone down. But I stood there, unmoving, my thumb still hovering over that call button, knowing in that moment I had all the power. For the first time in years, they were the ones afraid of losing me. I pressed the call button. The line rang once, twice. My family frozen around me like statues. Fraud department, how can I help you? A calm voice answered. Before anyone could stop me, I said, yes, I need to report unauthorized activity on my account. My parents applied for a loan in my name without my consent. The words dropped like a bomb. Mom gasped. Dad cursed under his breath. Chris sputtered. You can't do this. But it was too late. I gave the rep my details, confirmed the account, and authorized an investigation. When I hung up, the silence was deafening. You just destroyed us, Dad muttered, his face red with rage. No, I said, slipping my phone back into my pocket. You destroyed yourselves. I just stopped covering it up. Chris looked desperate now, his bravado crumbling. Dan, come on, we're brothers. Family forgives. Family doesn't steal, I cut him off. Family doesn't humiliate. Family doesn't drain you dry and call it love. Brooke stood near the door, her purse in hand, her voice trembling but clear. I can't marry into this, Chris. I'm sorry, but I won't tie myself to a family that treats their own like this. She left without another word. The sound of the door slamming echoed through the house. Mom sat down hard, her hands trembling. Dad stared at the floor, silent for once. Chris sank back onto the couch, his face pale. I walked to the door, pausing just long enough to deliver the only truth they'd ever hear from me. I don't owe you gratitude. I don't owe you money. And I don't owe you a place in my life. From now on, I'm done being your ATM. If you ever try this again, you won't just lose me, you'll face the law. And then I walked out. The air outside was cool, sharp against my skin, but for the first time in years, I could breathe. Really breathe. I wasn't just surviving under the weight of their demands, I was free. That night, I sat in my apartment with the lights off, the city buzzing quietly outside my window. For once, there were no texts, no calls, no demands. Just silence. And it wasn't the silence of being ignored. It was the silence of peace. I realized something as I stared out into the night. Being grateful isn't about tolerating abuse or letting people bleed you dry. True gratitude is for the people who see you, respect you, and stand beside you without asking for your soul in return. And those people, they weren't in that house. So I let go. And for the first time, I wasn't scared of being alone. I was finally free to build a life where gratitude meant something real.